Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to another episode of the Tradie Business School podcast, the only podcast you're ever going to need to listen to grow and scale your trades-based business. I am joined with the wonderful, the beautiful, the handsome Brian Santos. Thank you for being here today, Brian. I hope you are well.
I am. I'm glad you said beautiful as well in amongst those adjectives.
Mate, there's a lot of handsomeness happening right now. I know we get a lot of comments on my posts about how beautiful my beard is, but I can only imagine the fan mail that you get, mate. Buddy, we are getting into the middle of the year in Australia is end of financial year time. This applies what we're going to talk about today to realistically both the end of financial year and the calendar year, or I mean, geez, you can use it quarterly if you want, but it all comes back to goal setting and I guess utilizing the calendar times, utilizing things as kind of the finish line to push towards. So I know we talked a little bit offline about the push for the end of year goals, but I'd love you to give, because you articulate it so beautifully, sort of what you've done and seen in previous times about using the end of financial year as a stick or a carrot for achieving business goals.
Yeah. So most of us, when we think of end of financial year, are thinking about our business from an expense point of view or a tax point of view. How can we, do more expenses or spend more so that we can minimize our tax income, right? And by the way,
that's a whole podcast by itself right there.
Right. And if you're not already speaking to your accountant or the accountant's not already suggesting things to you, it's something that I recommend that you have the conversation with your accountant about, right? So rather than thinking about the end of financial year from an expenses point of view, how can we increase our expenses? I want to talk about how we can use the end of financial year to increase our income, right? Because we can actually use this
Wait, hang on, what? We're not worried about expenses? We want to use the end of financial year to create more income? How? Tell me.
Right? So it's just a shift, right? Because if you think about it, everybody's mindset is, let's spend more. Okay, I get it, right? There's tax reasons, there's all sorts of reasons why you should do that. But it also means that we're focusing on expenses when we should, I think, also focus on bringing in more money in. And what I mean by that is we can use these end of financial years, end of calendar year timings to really push towards our goals and to make sure that we obviously reach them, but hopefully exceed them as well. So one of the things that we would do, I know one of my clients a little while ago, so they were saying, "Oh, Brian, the end of the financial years tends to be a little bit slower, or it tends to be higher." I'd have some people say, "Oh, that's, usually when people buy from us or they've made the decisions in, May. And if they haven't made the decisions in May, then June's just, a fulfillment month, right?" But we can actually get more sales in if we actually pushed it, if we actually found the resources or the reasoning why we, towards what we need to be doing to be able to push towards that. So,
yeah, I see a lot of people they sort of sit on their hands around this time or particularly Christmas, end of year as well. And they're just like, whatever will be, right? But I always want to challenge people, and this is why we do what we do, is we like challenging the mindset in and around what are people thinking about? Like, are they thinking about that sort of, oh, this is just not a great time of year and that sort of thing. And we see, I think the retail space does it really well, right? They've always got bloody sales on. They've always got, and they will create a saleable day out of nothing, like Black Friday. I mean, what is that? I mean, I'm sure there's probably some logical reason behind it, but, they create events, they create days, like public holidays, they create events out of those, right? And this is the thing, right? I see tradies, they kind of fall behind there, right? Business owners as a general, they're like, oh, well, I'm not in the retail space, but it's like, I know that I've had discussions with people and they're like, how can I leverage this time? And it's like, well, what I've done previously is like, I don't discount anything ever, right? Because I mean, there's some really good things out there, like never split the difference is one of the topics. I think is it a book? I can't remember. Never split the difference, sorry. I'd listened to a lot of things on audiobooks. So things like that, right? So I don't ever discount, but what I'll do quite often is I'll use a period, like a calendar date or time, to say, right, prices are going up. Like if you don't want to get nailed by the increase, like if you've been on the fence, now's the time. Like, and this is the interesting thing, right? The construction industry. I got an email the other day. I'm looking at building a new shed, right? And I got an email and it was like, hey, Adam, if you want to build that shed, now's the time to do it, because number one, we got 20% off. Number two, we're expecting a materials increase at the end of new financial year, right? So this is a thing that you can start to forecast and start to bring into your marketing and your sales discussions with people to generate more income, to get people across the line sooner rather than later, and to get people to create some urgency, right? Like we hear about creating urgency in sales all the time, but I thought that was just such a beautiful stacking of value and how do we get Adam across the line to buy a shed sooner rather than later, right? So this is the thing. I think, how can you, like, if you're doing roof restorations, or if you're a builder or anybody in that space, like particularly in and around COVID, the price of materials is going up exponentially. So even if there's not one happening that you've been told about right now, it's fair to assume that there's one coming, so you can say to people, hey, now's the time to get in. Like, chase up all those old quotes and things that people are sitting on, right? And say, hey, end of financial year's coming. I just wanted to reach out. How can I, and this is all about shaking the money tree. How can I get a few people to fall out and go, oh yeah, okay, it makes sense for me to get now. Like, even if you book the work for 3 months down the track, you can say, hey, I need a 30% deposit or a 50% upfront payment so I can secure the materials at today's cost, and then the labor will be whatever the labor is, So, I mean, I've gone off on a bit of a tangent there, but bring us back on track, Brian.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. All those things that you've mentioned. So you can use this as an opportunity to make more income by, like you said, revisiting past customers. So actual customers who paid you for your services. So if you're a carpenter and you've done a deck or whatever it is, why not, revisit them and contact them again and say, and have an offer, like an end of financial year offer of, hey, look, we've got this package. It's an end of financial year package where we'll do X, Y, and Z. We revisit past inquiries where they didn't go anywhere, or the timing wasn't right, or even if they said no because the money wasn't right, or even if they went ahead with someone else, it doesn't mean that you can't still service them with something else. And using the end of financial year as, like you said, as an opportunity to be urgent or create urgency and opportunity, right? What people don't want to do is miss out on a great opportunity, right?
Yeah. And I mean, even like, I love how you sort of said just about, I mean, it's just about using it as really an excuse to have a conversation with somebody, really, like, hey, I drove past the other day and I saw that you had that deck built, obviously you went with ABC Builder down the road. I was just thinking it's missing a veranda, and right now I've got a sale on doing verandas before the end of the financial year. Like, is that something, just opens those discussions. Now, a lot of people are going to think that that's corny and they don't want to have those discussions. But even if you just said, hey, look, I've just got some, time in my calendar. How can I help you? Like, is there anything else that you'd consider getting done? And sure, you might get some tire kickers, but it's a really good thing, like if you've set yourself some goals, and I think this is going full circle back to what we talked about at the start. How can we use the end of financial year as a time or a finish line that we push towards? Maybe you wanted to do a couple of $100,000 in the first half of the year. Like, now's a really good time to take stock of where you're at and be like, I'm $100,000 short, or I'm $50,000 short. What can I do to generate some income right now to actually bring work in the door and tick that goal. Because I know there's nothing worse than getting to a mystical date, a mystical time, a line that we've drawn in the sand and falling just short, So it's like, I don't know, it just does something to the psyche. It's like, oh, I'd set the goals on doing, X amount of dollars, but, I felt just, or Z amount of dollars, and I actually just got to Y, like it can really be soul crushing sometimes. Whereas when you just get it and tick it, like, I mean, give yourself a reward, take the partner out, the significant other, the kids, whatever it may be, for a dinner, celebrate those things. So
yeah, absolutely. And you could also use the end of financial year as a goal for your team, right? So I know a lot of you who are listening, it's not just new business that will create more income. It's actually getting more jobs out the door, or out the door, which brings in obviously your billable hours or billable invoices that you can invoice out. So you can use this with your team or with yourself and say, all right, well, let's use this. Let's push what we need to push out, like in this last month and a bit, until the financial year ends, and let's squeeze in as much as we can now. And if we can fit in some of June this month, then let's do it so that we can invoice for this financial year as well. So there's a bunch of ways you can actually push and not take your foot off the pedal, and finish off strong and finish off in a way that you're proud of.
Yeah, and I think that's such a beautiful thing. Like, it's, the pride in what you do doesn't need to be just in the finish of the product. It can be in what you achieve in and around the business and how you support yourself. And I mean, I've had people set goals of, they want to donate. If they can make X amount of dollars, they're going to donate 10% to a local sporting club or a charity or whatever it may be, like, what can you create as, I'm a big believer of intrinsic motivation, but, sometimes that extrinsic motivation, that external motivator is really powerful to be able to drive us towards towards our goals. The other thing is just being a checkpoint to, like, if you've used the calendar year as kind of goal setting timeline, 6 months in, we've got a pretty good idea. Like, for those of you who can, watching this, like, if we drew a horizontal line across the screen, and those of you listening are doing this, in your head, like, are you trending up away from that line over the next 12 months? Or are you starting to trend down and away from the line to the lower end of the spectrum? And I think, now's a really good checkpoint. But I want to circle back on something you touched on earlier, because we all know my love for accountants. I think it's really important for you to be having these discussions sooner rather than later. Most businesses have a cycle where they can get things done, and they should have been, like, by sort of May, they're having those preliminary discussions with their accountant about how things are tracking, where are we looking to apportionate things. Like, if your accountant's not proactively reaching out to you, and you've not had a discussion sort of in between March and May about where things are trending in Australia, because obviously the American tax year and different countries is different, but you really want to be chasing your accountant and saying, hey, how are we trending? What do we need to do? Like, are we actually on track for the goals that we've set? And where are the numbers sitting? Do we need to be investing in things? Maybe you want to invest in business coaching, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But these are all things that are going to help you offset your tax and get in control of things. Obviously, we're not providing financial advice, but I think these are discussions. We're providing advice on the discussions that you need to be having with your accountant, with yourself, and, like you said, with your team. How can we really push here? So, Brian, is there anything else that you'd like to add? I think that's been a really nice discussion in and around goal setting and using timelines as milestones and as litmus tests for where we're at and what we're trying to achieve. Any final words of wisdom from your genius brain?
I don't know if it's words of wisdom, but it's what I would like to do is, I guess, for those who are watching, those who are listening, I guess challenge you, right, to finish off strong. to spend some time thinking about, all right, where's the opportunity that we can finish off this financial year with this month and a bit left to go? Where is the money that we can bring in, the income and really push towards exceeding our goals here. So that's my challenge to you guys.
I love it. And if you want a little bit of external accountability on that, Brian and I are both here to help you with that. Send your goals. Like if you're watching this somewhere where you can comment, please comment what your goals are and then check back in like at the end of the financial year. Let us know if you've achieved them. Or you can send us an email, hello@tradiebusinessschool.com. And the team there, we'll track them and we'll touch base with you in 4 weeks. And so, ask the question, how did you go getting that? I'd love this to be a little bit motivational for you and your friends and your team. Share this with a comrade, a colleague, somebody in business as well, and see if you can create like a little mini challenge. That'd be really cool. So that's all from me. I think that's all from Brian there. Ladies and gentlemen, please, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when the new episode always drops. We deliver this on a weekly basis. So thank you for being a listener. Thank you for being a watcher if you're doing that. And don't forget to email us at hello@tradiebusinessschool.com. And we'll sign off for now. Thank you very much for being part of the show, Brian, and I'll catch you on the next one.
Cheers, Adam. Cheers, guys.